guys, welcome to this week's sports talk show. I'm Gabby Bates. I'm your host of the show. I'm here with Zach Orr and Zach Silverman. We have a lot to discuss this week, so let's get started. All right, let's talk about some NFL. This week's power rankings, we have Denver at number 1, San Diego at number 2, and the Cowboys at number 3. What do you think about this week's power rankings, and what do you think about Romo and his team coming up from the middle up to the top?
Well, one thing that I've heard on SportsCenter here is that this is Romo's team, and this is not Tony Romo's team. This is DeMarco Murray's team. This is the offensive line's team. The Dallas Cowboys are built from the line outwards on offense. Their first-round pick, Zach Martin, has been bullying people. He made the Seattle Seahawks look like the Jacksonville Jaguars up front. DeMarco Murray has 100 rush yards and a touchdown in every game this season. First to do that in a while. Through 6 games against the number 1 rush defense, they put up 4.4 yards a carry against a team that was previously allowing less than 3.5. It's just been a dominant O-line performance, and the less that Tony Romo does this season, the better for Dallas. I think their season's going to turn out, and if they can continue to rely on the run, if DeMarco Murray stays healthy, and if you don't have things like their backup running back, Joseph Randall, going out and stealing underwear and cologne from a store when you're getting paid millions of dollars, I think Dallas is a team that's looking pretty good right now.
No, sure, that's a great point. Dallas is a team that's being run by its offensive line right now. You mentioned the Zach Martin pick, but even go back a year before, you look at a guy like Travis Frederick. This is the big center they took in the first round that nobody thought that they should have taken. A guy who was maybe a third-round pick at best has turned out to be an everyday starter, an every week starter, and maybe one of the higher-end centers in the league right now. He's pushing around guys up front. Big name guys, and he's making it look easy. He's making ways for DeMarco Murray to just run, and that guy is good. He's 7 games now, 100-yard games, and that's tying Barry Sanders, I believe. So that's pretty elite company to start the season with 6 100-yard games right off the bat. You mentioned San Diego at 2 at the moment. Philip Rivers is enjoying another year of maybe a comeback story, if you will. The previous couple of years, he had been a down-and-out player, a player who maybe had reached the peak of his career. A new system of offense kind of pushed him forward again, and he enjoyed a resurgent year last year, and maybe this year, bigger and better things. Do the Chargers finally make a run in the playoffs? Do they finally get past that elusive AFC Championship game? I don't know. Maybe time will only tell.
Yeah, San Diego has definitely looked good this year. Team looking to challenge Denver for supremacy in the AFC West, which currently has the 1 and 2 spots in the poll, which is kind of cool for the division. And the West overall in the top 10, 5 of the top 10 teams are coming from the West, with Seattle, Arizona, and San Francisco right in line at 5, 6, 7. So it's a good time to be a football fan if you're coming from out that side of the country. A little bit back to Dallas, I think one person that deserves credit immensely is Jerry Jones, who took a lot of heat for not taking Johnny Manziel. Took Zach Martin 1 pick before, and it's paid dividends so far. And by drafting substance over flash, which has not been his style in the past, I think it's boded well for this Dallas team.
You can give credit to Jerry Jones all you want, but there's been stories out there that his son-in-law literally had to take the card out of his hand to make sure he did not draft Johnny Manziel. So let's not go ahead and crown him as the best GM, best president, owner of all sports, because he's not.
Oh, no,
he's an absolute joke at
Belichick.
times. Yeah, well, let's relax for a second. But he's just a joke. That's what he does. It's his thing. And this time it happened to work out. It happened to work out that he had the right people around him that caused him to draft a very good, serviceable, perhaps a long-term Dallas Cowboy on the offensive line. They're building from the inside out in that line, and that's a great thing to do and something I think you're going to see a lot of NFL franchises do here on out. We talked about the rest of the power rankings. We have the Broncos at number 1, a team that is led by the ageless Peyton Manning, a man who we still do not know how he does it. He comes out every week after how many neck surgeries a couple of years ago, and he's making people look so good right now. Demaryius Thomas enjoying 2 career days the last couple of weeks. It's going to be interesting to see how the Broncos do the rest of the season, and if they can keep up this surreal passing attack.
Yeah, and to me, Denver looks like a team that's peaking at the wrong time. I think they're peaking too early in the season. I don't know if they're going to have sustainable success as we look forwards and go back towards the end of the season. Julius Thomas is on an unreal pace right now with 9 touchdowns through 5 games.
Sure.
Demaryius Thomas just put up back-to-back 100-yard games, topping 200 in one of them. That's not something you're going to have every week. But that attack is loaded with weapons. The defenses look solid. Pick 6 from Aqib Talib, former Patriot. who went over there. Wes Welker is working his way back into the offense, coming off the concussion and suspension. But Denver looks good right now. San Diego looks good right now. I can't wait for those teams to play.
Hey, I think one more team we got to mention. In my opinion, there's a solid top 4 in the league right now. I think the power rankings this week, even though they normally don't, really encompasses that. The Philadelphia Eagles are in that top 4, in my opinion. They're a good team. They dismantled the Giants this past week on Sunday Night Football. I mean, absolutely dismantled them. It wasn't even close. Wasn't even a contest. You knew by the time they were up 10-0, it was going to be, the game was over. The Giants didn't have anything in them in the Link. The Link was loud. It was hostile. The Eagles played a game that was practically unbeatable if we're going to go there. I think they deserve every bit of the conversation to be in the top 3 or 4 of the league, and it's going to remain to be seen who takes the NFC East. Right now, it's a 2-team race, in my opinion. The Cowboys and the Eagles sitting at 5-1 respectively. The Cowboys have the Giants next week. Judging by last week's performance, that should be an easy steamroller of a game. So it's not that the Giants are going to do anything in that division. It's going to be a two-team race, a 2-horse race, if you will. Cowboys, Eagles, who's coming out on top of that?
Down on your boys there, first of all.
Absolutely.
But last week I took the Eagles, and I think despite the success Dallas has had early in the season, I think I'm going to stick with the Eagles. Dallas has had early season success before. What I'm looking for is for them to sustain this, for them to not get greedy, to not go back and revert to the old ways of Tony Romo, relying on him and his arm to win games, because I don't think they're going to win very many that way. Philadelphia, absolutely dominant. Biggest win in the Philadelphia Eagles New York Giants series since the mid-1940s. First shutout in the series of this century.
Yeah.
Just a flat-out dominant performance. The offense was rolling again. The defense and special teams have been rolling all season. A team that is left out of these rankings, somewhat surprisingly to me as a fan of the team, but the New England Patriots are always a team. They've been to the past 3 AFC Championship games, and the San Francisco 49ers being outside the top 5, they've been to the past 3 NFC Championship games, and when you have sustainable success like that throughout your organizations, I think it's hard to leave those teams out of a top 5 at any point, despite how badly, if they have 1 or 2 off weeks in the first couple weeks of the season like both of these teams have, they're proven winners, and as we've seen in baseball, in the NLCS especially, playoff experience speaks volumes.
I agree with you, but these power rankings are for this year. It's for this season. So we can rehash the past all we want. We can talk about 2007 if we want to. We can talk about 2011 if we want to. They're proven winners. Eli Manning's a proven winner, but he got absolutely housed this past weekend in Philadelphia. So yeah, the Patriots belong in that conversation, and they have every right to be in that conversation. But at this moment in time, it's not a conversation to be had. They're a 2-loss team. They're sitting in the middle of the pack division right now. They're going to win the AFC East because the AFC East is a joke.
They're in sole possession of first in their division.
I haven't meant division. I meant the AFC. But it's gonna be the AFC East to the Patriots like it is every other year, and we all know that they're gonna make the playoffs. But at the moment, if we're talking about the elite teams in the league, that's a 4-team race. That's all that is. It's end of story.
A team that put up 40 points on average in the past 2 games against the previously undefeated Cincinnati Bengals and a Buffalo team that had just knocked off the Detroit Lions, division leader in the NFC
If we're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals being an elite team in this league, we're going to talk about Andy Dalton being an elite quarterback leading that team.
He's getting paid like
that's
one.
a joke. And so is Joe Flacco, but what are they doing right now?
Joe's got a ring.
He won a
Joe
Super-
Flacco
he
also
won a
did
Super
just
Bowl.
throw 5 touchdowns in about 16 minutes.
Against Tampa Bay. Against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who pretty much just called me last weekend to see if I can play safety for them this weekend because they're a joke on defense right now. So don't tell me Joe Flacco is a good quarterback because he's not.
Oh, I don't believe he is.
I refuse to believe that. The Patriots, they deserve respect. They get the respect they earn, and they're going to get more as the season goes on. But right now, it's still a 4-team race, in my opinion, and the majority of the United States agrees with me, I would like to believe.
The AFC this season is always going to be a 2-team race when it comes down to it, and it's going to be the Patriots and the Broncos in the championship game. You can book it.
You can book it? Give me the Chargers. Gabs.
Okay, guys, enough NFL. Let's get into some MLB. We had a big game tonight with the Royals winning. Guys, what do you think about the game tonight?
Well, I can tell you that there's one panelist missing from our squad. Probably because of this game. He'll probably give you some other reason, like studying or something. But the Kansas City Royals just wiped the floor with the Baltimore Orioles. Every single game, just better offense, defense, especially pitching, and especially in the bullpen, which was supposed to be one of Baltimore's strengths coming into the series. An area in the first series against the Tigers where they really outshined the competition. The combination of Wade Davis, Greg Holland, just absolutely shut them down. nothing against the Kansas City bullpen. A lead in the 6th is ball game against these guys, and it's going to be a fun World Series to watch. It'll be a little new school versus old school, with the new team to the playoffs, the Kansas City Royals, representing the old school baseball, a little small ball. But interesting fact to note is that about a month ago, before these playoffs started, none of us could say that we had seen the Kansas City Royals win a playoff game, lose a playoff game, go to a playoff game. 8 games later, none of us can say we've seen the Kansas City Royals lose a playoff game.
No, you're absolutely right. It's a great point talking about our boy here who couldn't quite be bothered to show up and take ownership for his sorry excuse of a baseball team in Baltimore right now. It's a team that laid down, and it's a team that this all year deserved better. It's a team that we all thought was going to make a nice run in the playoffs. And I know from you thought they were going to lose, yada, yada, yada. KC, as you called it before, plays an awesome small ball kind of baseball. It's really, really good to watch if you're an old school baseball fan and an appreciator of the game, if you will. It's going to be interesting to see if that'll stack up against a team like St. Louis or San Francisco. Both of those squads are teams that have had historic success. I hesitate to use that phrase based on the last segment.
Past 5 years.
Yeah, exactly. But those are teams that are experienced in the playoffs. Those are teams that know how to win. Flat out, they know how to win. So are they going to run into Kansas City, run into a buzzsaw? Is Kansas City going to run all over them? Are we going to see Kansas City lose is the question. Honestly, I hope not. I hope they sweep the whole thing. I hope we're done with it by, November, 1st.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, but it's going to be really interesting. Kansas City, you got to take your hats off to them. Absolutely killed Baltimore. Took them behind the woodshed and really just disposed of them, if you will. The San Francisco-St. Louis series, it's 2-1 right now in San Francisco's favor. They're currently playing right now, top of the first, just started. Where do you see that series going?
I see it going to 7 games.
Do you?
Absolutely. I think these are 2 teams that the past few years, when they've battled to 5 in the division series, 7 in the NLCS. And I think that's where it's going to go. I mean, all the games are one-run games, and I'm going to bring up a football term here, and that's defense wins championships. And I think that's what we're seeing out of Kansas City over there. And the opposite of what we just saw from St. Louis in Game 3, where you saw Randy Cho throw away the game-winning run on a routine play, just sacrifice bunt, threw it away down the line, ball game over. And Kansas City played fantastic defense. St. Louis so far has not quite matched that standard. San Francisco is a good defensive ball club. I don't think they've really matched that standard either. And I see San Francisco taking this in 7 one-run ball games all the way through, which has been the tale of these playoffs, really. We've had almost 60% of game, or over 60% now with this game earlier, have been decided by 1 run or less, when the previous high in the live ball era is something like 38%.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. The quality of games we're seeing this postseason is fantastic. I'm looking for that to continue, without a doubt, in this NLCS and the World Series.
You know what? That's a great phrase to use. Defense wins championships. And if you're St. Louis, Yadier Molina wins championships. And it hurts having him out right now. AJ Presensi behind the plate hurts them tremendously. The Molina family is a baseball family, as everybody knows. They have like 14 million of them in the league right now. But Yadier is arguably the best. He's great. He's a
it's
great
not an argument.
defensive
He's
catcher.
the only one who
Yeah.
can hit. They all play great defense.
I'm trying to, Benji's my boy. The big old roly-poly he is. He's my boy. So, Yadier, he was the Cardinals' anchor. He was the Cardinals' life support, if you will. And now that we're looking at it, he was a great an elite defensive catcher. The guy has a gold glove for a reason. It's going to be hard to replace him, especially with AJ Brzezinski. I know that guy had his heyday back in Chicago, in 2005. So I mean, it's 2014. We gotta move on from that. It's gonna be interesting to see if they come back. I don't think they will. I think San Francisco takes this. I think they take it in 6. I don't think it goes to 7. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see what happens, but it's gonna be an interesting ride for sure.
Yeah, another interesting fact to note is that before Yadi went out, he had started 83 consecutive postseason games, which is a record for a catcher. And the previous catcher to start a postseason game for St. Louis was Mike Matheny, who is now the manager. So that's a kind of circular, a little fun.
Sure. Yes.
Okay, guys. Now on to some college football. We had some really big changes in the power rankings this week. We have Mississippi State take the number 1 ranking. We had We had Mississippi take the number 1 ranking, and Ole Miss take number 3 ranking. Okay, guys. What do you think about this week's rankings as far as these teams coming up, beating big teams? Both of these teams are now 6-0 for the season, guys. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, fantastic week for the state of Mississippi. Again, 2 in a row. And these are two teams that are looking good right now. If I had to pick one who's going to come out on top among the two Mississippi teams, because there can only be one they play on the 29th.
The only one.
Yep. I'm going to take Mississippi State. I think Dak Prescott is more consistently excellent when compared to Bo Wallace. I think Bo Wallace will have a game or two down the line where he doesn't perform to the highest standard, and that's going to be the difference. This week in college football, a great matchup, Florida State and the potentially suspended smartest guy in college football, Jameis Winston.
Smartest guy.
Yeah, taking on a Notre Dame squad and Everett Golson, who had his own troubles being kicked off the team last season. So we can call it the clash of the talented yet not so smart quarterbacks.
Okay.
Top 5. Who you got?
Let's come back to that game in a second. I want to talk to you about Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Mississippi, I don't know where they came from. I really don't. Mississippi State, both of these teams have been rebuilding for years. It seems like they've been rebuilding my entire college football viewing lifetime, if you will. Mississippi State, to their credit, has won some big games. They're gonna continue to get big games thrown their way. So we'll see what happens. But give me Hottie Toddy, give me Bo Wallace, give me the whole 9, give me everything about Ole Miss. I think they're a team that can make some serious noise in this new postseason playoff system we have. As long as Robert Nimdici, the former Clemson commit, can stop ripping bongs on Snapchat, then maybe they have a shot. If not, then you're absolutely 100% correct. Mississippi State takes that state and runs away with it, hands down. Nimdici is the guy that anchors that defensive line, and he's a big old boy and can cause a lot of trouble for offenses. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, but I'm going to take Ole Miss tentatively right now.
Yeah, I mean, Kimdiche is a guy who had some climbing comparisons when he was looking at Clemson, and maybe warranted, maybe not so far. We're not deep into his career enough to see, but he is definitely a force on that defensive line. One thing that we see out of both these Mississippi teams and why they've kind of just emerged out of nowhere is they're both teams laden with seniors. I mean, there's a lot of leadership on these teams that have been there, that have been through the gauntlet in the SEC, losing most of the games, but there's a lot of experience on both of these squads, and it's finally coming to fruition, but I mean, looking forward 2, 3, 4, 5 seasons, I don't think these are going to stick. I think it's going to be kind of a one-and-done run, maybe similar to what Auburn went through when they had Cam Newton.
Sure.
But, I mean, from that point, once you get a national championship, you can retool every year and you can rebuild while retooling, like kind of the way Alabama does. They get new guys every year that are just fantastic, or the way LSU does, save for this year. But, I mean, 2 good-looking teams right now, and we'll see how it goes going forward.
Oh, yeah, let's move on to that. Okay, Gabby, yeah, whatever you want.
Sorry. What about Dak Prescott? Nobody's really mentioned him. He's done really well. What about Dak?
Dak, who, I mean, almost Dak. Close. Could have been on the panel. But,
Dak
I mean, he's leading all the Heismanology campaigns right now.
He was named to the mid-season first-team college football team, whatever it is. He was named the starting quarterback over guys like Marcus Mariota, over the Jameis Winstons of the world, over Bryce Petty, over really good guys. So, all right, there's your Dak Prescott mention.
He's been fantastic.
He's been great. He's been, you're right, though. He's been an unsung hero, if you will. If you polled casual college football fans, they don't know who Dak Prescott is. They have no idea.
And I believe when I said that I like Mississippi State over Ole Miss, the first reason I gave was that Dak Prescott is more consistently excellent.
We don't
Wallace.
remember that at all. I got nothing.
I don't know, Gabby.
Okay.
Zach, you just got a point.
Let's talk
Zach
about some
Silverman
Florida
just-
State, Notre Dame. This is the game day matchup this week, 8 o'clock ABC. It's going to be hopefully a great game. Hopefully Winston plays just to make it that great game. Otherwise, we're going to see old Sean McGuire again, and that's just no fun for anybody. Again, hopefully Everett Golson can stay out of trouble. You're right with that. 2 quarterbacks that have phenomenal talent for the game, but cannot seem to keep out of trouble.
The wait, I can't do that, Bull?
Yeah, exactly. The wait, I can't do that, Bull. As far as the game goes, it's in Tallahassee. That is a loud stadium. That is a hostile environment. The fans are nasty. It's a place that nobody wants to go play at 8 o'clock at night under the lights. It's crazy down there. As far as that goes, that to me says Florida State by a lot. By a lot. I think this is a Notre Dame team that is soft. I think this is a team that has
Soft.
a
The
soft.
team that just
soft.
out-Stanford.
Stanford, get out of here. This is a Notre Dame team that has Everett Golson at quarterback, and that's a reason they're going to compete on Saturday. But I'm telling you right now, I think Florida State is a team that is a hardened team. It's a team obviously coming off a national championship last year. They returned a lot of guys. They have Jameis Winston under center in their home stadium, in their home turf. I'm taking Florida State by a good 2-3 touchdowns.
I mean, this is a game that has a very similar feel to me to the Clemson game. I mean, you got Jameis in trouble the week before. You have an excellent defense coming into town. Our defense was ranked number 1 for a while. I believe their defense topped the poll. If not, was very close to it at one point.
Sure.
Even potentially right now might be a top 5 defense.
Okay.
I mean, definitely not going to be a blowout. And the one difference, I think, between the Clemson game where we weren't able to pull through and where Notre Dame will be able to come through and upset Florida State is that they have consistent quarterback play. They know who their guy is going to be going into the game. And I think the confidence that instills in your offense is going to be enough to lead them to a 6 or 7 point victory.
I don't agree with that at all. I mean, you mentioned the Stanford game. Yes, they went and they beat Stanford. That's fantastic. They beat them at home, though. They did not go out to Stanford to beat them. They beat them at home. They beat them by 3. By 3 points. I mean, that's a great win. Congratulations. And I'm really happy for you guys. But it's a Stanford team that is 14 in the country. They're a 2-loss team now. I don't think they're as good as they've been in the last couple of years. You talk about the program being a successful program. The last couple of years, yes, you're right. You're 100% right on that. But maybe not this year as upper echelon as they want to be. That's their signature win right now. You can talk about they beat Syracuse. They beat a Michigan team who I think is a 4-loss team now.
I don't know, 12-loss team.
Michigan is not good, and they skunked them, so I guess that's a great sign. And they come off North Carolina last week where they dropped a 50-burger on them, but only won by 7. So it's a soft Notre Dame team to me. It's a really soft team, and you're going to Tallahassee. That cannot be understated. If this is in South Bend, this is a whole different conversation we're having. Maybe Notre Dame's favored in that game. But in my opinion, you go to Tallahassee, you're coming out with an L until otherwise notified, because that is a place that is impossible to play right now. You can't do it. They're rabid down there, especially with Jameis Winston under center.
I don't know. I believe we might have been saying the same thing about Seattle going into this past week against Dallas.
Sure.
And the way you beat them is you beat them at their own game. You beat them up front. You beat them by hitting them in the mouth, by running the ball, by keeping the ball away from their quarterback. And I think that's what Notre Dame's going to have to do.
I mean, I agree with you. They have the talent to do so. They recruit just as well as Florida State. It's Notre Dame. Notre Dame is college football. They're always going to be college football. But I have this feeling, and I'm not going to back away from it. They're a good team. They're a great team, if you will. Maybe a team we talk about come playoff time because they always get the votes. They're always favored in the voting. But Florida State wins big this weekend. No question in my mind. Gabby.
Okay, guys, we're going to get a little diverse with our sports right now. We're going to go into some NHL. Guys, the NHL started, and yes, that's the thing. What do you think about this year in the NHL?
I'm looking forward to another exciting year. Mostly Western Conference powerhouses. Bruins are going to come out of the East, without a doubt. No question in my mind. A little bit of a slow start, but that really hurts you in hockey.
Uh-huh.
Teams that have looked good to me so far, the Minnesota Wild have been absolutely fantastic. Maybe looking to finally put together some of these great pieces they've collected. Zach Parise, Ryan Suter, Darcy Kemper in goal has been a stud so far. San Jose Sharks are looking to come up with some revenge after last year. They spoiled the Kings' ring ceremony, but I think the Kings are going to be fine with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Team that didn't allow a goal until the second period of their third game, and that one got a little crazy against the Capitals. Ended up being a 5-5 game that the the Sharks were able to hold on and win in shootout. But I think this is a Sharks team that's looking possessed out of the gate right now and
Sure.
could threaten in the West, take the top seed, maybe break through that little veil they've been unable to pierce and finally get to a cup.
The fact that we're talking about the Bruins breaking out of the East right now is a disgrace, and it shows how much of a homer you are. I mean, they just signed Simone Gagne, who didn't even play in the league last year, to a 1-year deal because they need to have somebody who could possibly have a sniff of putting something in the back of the net right now. I think this is a team that's going to miss a guy like Jerome McGinley, who I believe was your leading scorer last year. It's a team that is a good team. They have a lot of depth on that team. They have a lot of talent on that team. Now, I'm not taking that away from them. They just had a slow start. But slow starts can kill you in this league. If you do not get off to a good start, at least get a couple of wins under your belt, put some pucks in the back of the net, it's going to be tough for you to be successful later on. These points are points that matter, even though it doesn't seem like it. It's an 82-game season. Maybe the first couple, 3 or 4, don't matter. They do. They matter a lot. This is a team that's been outscored, 9-4, I think, in the first couple of games. That's a lot. Being down by 5 plus minus goal differential. That's not a good start for the Boston Bruins. I do agree with you, though. I think the West is obviously the stronger conference. They've been that way for the last couple of years. Teams like San Jose, LA, Chicago, you can throw Anaheim in there if you want. Those are teams that are going to compete this year. You mentioned San Jose. San Jose is a good team. They've had a bit of a controversy in the offseason with Joe Thornton, Patrick Marleau getting stripped of the captaincy and assistant captaincy, respectively. That seemed to work its way out fine so far. They're deep down the middle, real deep down the middle. Joe Thornton, Thomas Hertel, Logan Couture, and just interchangeable on the fourth line. We're going to see what happens with that. San Jose, maybe this is the year. Maybe this is the year they don't go up 3-0 on the Kings and lose four straight to lose it. Maybe this is the year. As far as the rest of the league goes, I think the East is looking pretty good. They're not looking bad. I mean, it's early. Boston's always going to be in the conversation. I think a team like Montreal is always going to be in the conversation. Tampa Bay absolutely killed Montreal the other night, 7-1. Then they dropped the game to the Devils last night. Tampa Bay is a team that has a ton of speed. A guy like Steven Stamkos is healthy again, a whole season to go at it. I mean, I think he's a runaway with the Rocket Richard Trophy this year. We'll see what happens with that. He's a guy who can score from anywhere on the ice, it seems, and he scores a lot. But yeah, NHL, really excited for it. Happy it's back, and looking forward to the rest of the year.
Yeah, didn't hear a thing from you about the Pittsburgh Penguins and Sidney Crosby, but wouldn't expect any less from Devils.
Absolutely not. Sidney Crosby is non-existent in my mind. I know he's a great player. He obviously is. I think he's leading the league in points right now. I mean, it's early, but yes, he's still leading. A guy like Brock Nelson out in Long Island is tied for the lead league, which is pretty exciting to see a no-name guy like that come up and compete with the big boys. You know, Sidney Crosby is a cornerstone player. He is the face of the NHL, and for Brock Nelson to be going head to head with him right now, that's pretty exciting. And I think it's kind of fun to see.
The Islanders have a little bit of young talent over there.
Oh,
They
yeah.
got 18 in the playoffs a couple years ago. I mean, they got Yaroslav Halak to finally have a goaltender.
Sure.
I mean, that's a team that could potentially look to threaten if they can keep this pace a little bit. Obviously, they're not going to keep up an undefeated streak. Nobody is. But
82-0. It's happening.
Yeah, they look good. Yep. Back to the Bruins, I just want to make the point that David Krejci was their leading scorer last year, and he is currently out with an injury, so that could be more
goal-wise or point-wise?
Point-wise.
I'm pretty sure goal-wise was
your boy Patrice Bergeron, actually.
Really? He only had a 30-plus last year, didn't he?
Well, they actually was at 30.
Yep. Okay.
Again, out in Colorado, a team that's looking to threaten now. Patrick Roy has been putting pieces together. Nathan McKinnon is an absolute stud. Beat an Olympic speed skater, gold medalist, 3-time gold medalist.
Yep.
In a foot race, in full pads,
Yep.
with a stick.
Yep.
I don't think that you can really get faster than that. Maybe he should have been an Olympic skater instead of a hockey player. But he's got some talent with the stick as well. Matthew Shane is fantastic talent. Bob and Goal was a Vezina candidate last year. We'll look to do the same again this year. Now they have a Ginla over there too to provide some veteran leadership that I think was lacking over there last year. They have Gabriel Landeskog, who is one of the youngest captains in NHL history. It's an exciting squad over in Colorado that could look to threaten maybe a little more this year than they did last year, bowing out early.
If I'm not mistaken, Colorado's a team that struggled early in the season as well. They're a team that hasn't been able to put the puck in the back of the net. The only reason I know that is I have a lot of those guys on my fantasy team. They've not been doing great, if you will. But yeah, you're right. It's a team with a lot of depth out there. A team with a fiery Patrick Waugh behind the bench. A guy that won't hesitate to get in your face, get in your beak a little bit, and tell you what's what. Yeah, it's going to be fun to see if they can make a run this year. Colorado is a team that's going to be reckoned with out in the West, a deep Western Conference. I feel like we've talked about the West exclusively almost. You mentioned Varlamov, though. Varlamov's their goalie out there. If he can stop hitting women, then maybe they can do something. He needs to stay away from that. It's the thing that keeps coming up in sports, and I'm getting sick of talking about it. But speaking of hitting, again, it's the NHL season started. We're going off about fighting in the NHL. How it should be outlawed, how this is 2014. It's a barbaric ritual. It shouldn't be happening. People are getting hurt, concussions, yada, yada, yada. What are your thoughts on that? I'm interested.
I mean, I think the game is better without fighting. If you look at the playoff hockey, if you look at Olympic hockey, there's really not fighting. I mean, the players are too valuable. Those minutes are too valuable. But that being said, it brings a lot of excitement to the game. I mean, there's 3 reasons that fans stand and cheer in a hockey match. That's the national anthem, a goal, and a fight. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I don't know how you can take out the tradition while still maintaining the level of play. But a lot of teams have moved away towards the enforcers. You're not really seeing as many just big goons out there that are just going out to deck people. A lot of the teams are moving towards more skilled players, and if you can be big and skilled, I mean, that's a force to be reckoned with.
No, I mean, I agree with you.
A guy like Rick Nash, for example.
Rick Nash does not fight, but yeah, I agree with you. I think fighting has its place in the game. I think fighting is something that I agree with you. Enforcers are making their way out of the game, and I'm fine with that. I don't need guys like John Scott running out there and running around taking people's heads off. I don't need the Sean Thorntons of the world running around and trying to take people's heads off. I need, though, by committee, if you will, I need a team to be able to have a team toughness about them, stick up for your boys in the locker room, stick up for your boys on the ice, and maybe step up and answer the bell if need be. If you're talking about the Bruins and you have Patrice Bergeron come across the middle and get his head taken off, a guy like Chara is going to step up. A guy like Adam McQuaid is going to step up and going to drop the mitts. And I think that's needed. I think that's needed in the league because otherwise, every time you come across the middle, your head's going to get taken off. It's needed. It's not something that needs to happen every game. That needs to happen at every face-off. That kind of fight, those planned fights, there's no place for that in the game, in my opinion. Absolutely none. It's exciting for the fans, but there's no place for it. It's something that leads straight to concussions. It's something that leads to people that want the fighting out of the game to make these points to say, hey, look at this. This is ridiculous. Why are we doing this right off the face-off? If it happens in the game, if it is in the flow of the game, I think it's warranted. I think it's something that needs to be addressed. Maybe dial it down a little bit if we're going to do maybe instigators, maybe be more with those. But it's something that needs to stay in the game. It's been with the game since it started, and it's going to stay with the game. I don't see it going anywhere. It's just something that comes up every year now for the last couple of years, ever since the guys like, Boogie and what's the guy got down in Nashville? They died from concussion-related symptoms. Bob Probert and Detroit from fighting their whole career, but that was a different era in the NHL. That was an era that you get in line brawls every night, and you beat each other's brains in. So, is it here to stay? We'll see. I think so. I think it deserves a spot in the game, and I think that it's exciting. You're right. A goal, national anthem, and a fight. That's what you stand up and root for.
Yeah, and I mean, I think fighting has its place in hockey more so than any other sport because hockey has always been kind of a self-regulated game more than the other sports. You know? There's not the stoppages every 3 or 4 seconds like you have in the NFL or in the NBA. Hockey, you let the players play. You let them make their moves. That's what's exciting. And when you have players going across the middle and getting absolutely clocked, you step up and you tell them that that's not something you can do.
No, absolutely. I mean, we're here in the South. We're in Clemson. We're talking about hockey right now, and I know if anybody's watching on campus, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
We'll introduce you.
Yeah, hockey is a sport that you want to get familiar with. You want to cozy up to it, if you will. It is the most exciting sport to watch in person, and there's just no question about that. You ask anybody who's been to a variety of sports, it's hockey to go see. It's a great sport to watch on TV. If come playoff times, NBC does a great job with the guys like Doc and Pierre McGuire and all those guys to call those games. Pierre's awesome. And it's exciting to watch. It's a game that is fluid. It's a beautiful game, and it's one that you should really familiarize yourself with because it's worth your time.
Gabs?
Okay, guys, now for your very own Clemson Tigers. Last week, we saw the Clemson Tigers completely shut out North Carolina. This week, we saw the Clemson Tigers go against Louisville with a pretty tough win, I would have to say. The offense really struggled, considering they didn't really put any points on the boards. We saw Deshaun Watson and Cole Stout both throw interceptions. We had Watson out with a broken finger. We saw maybe some bad play calling. Guys, I want to know your opinion on this week's game against Louisville. What was the problem, and what does Clemson have to look forward to in the next coming games?
Well, Gabby, before we get to our opinion, I think we should hear a little bit more from you, seeing as you were on the field.
Yeah, our very own Gabby Bates was down on the sideline this weekend. She did a phenomenal job, according to the great students at Clemson. Even got herself a little shout-out. So, let's hear it, Gabs. What did you think being right up close and personal to the action?
Guys, it was the best experience I've ever had. It was so awesome being on the sidelines right there next to the players. Wanting to go into sports broadcasting, it was something that I had always dreamed of doing, and it's something I get to check off my bucket list and say, hey, I got to broadcast a Clemson football game. But being there with the coaches and the players, it really brought a different perspective than sitting in the stands. Sitting in the stands, it's awesome, but being on the field, it really makes you feel like you're involved, like you're a part of it. And so it was an awesome experience. If you ever get the chance to be on the sidelines and do anything like that, go for it, do it. It was amazing.
Was it awesome?
I was I was a little disappointed in the way the team played. The very end of the game was the most exciting thing I've ever experienced when we had our defense completely help us just get the victory over the Cardinals. I went to the press conference afterwards. I got to interview a few of the players. Just a wonderful experience, a great thing to put on my resume as I'm going into sports broadcasting. And guys, if you ever get the chance to do it, hey, do it.
Yeah, you hit on the play calling a little bit on that last drive, and I think overall during the game, having Cole Stout come in, playing injured, out of nowhere with Deshaun breaking his finger, which I hope he gets better quickly. But the offensive play calling didn't. I mean, you're not game planning for Cole Stout to come in. Deshaun Watson has won the job, earned the job. He's the game plan. The only thing that I didn't like about about the play calling was when you're up 3 and you have the ball on their 2-yard line and you have 4th and goal, you go for it. And why would you not kick that field goal? You go up 6 points to make them score a touchdown, because it forces the other team, Louisville in this case, to become hyper aggressive, just going after that last touchdown. If you go for it, you have 2 options there, or 2 outcomes. You're either up by 10, game over, iced, or they have to go the entire length of the field to kick a field goal, which no certainty with this crowd, especially the loudest I've ever heard it, with Bobby Petrino calling us out before the game. I think might have taken it to him a little bit. His ears are probably still ringing. But, I mean, we almost saw it backfire. We saw a 80-yard pass play that was miraculously stopped, and then a fantastic defensive stand. But, I mean, going up by 6 is a move you've seen backfire time and time again, and this time it just barely were able to hold on.
Yeah, this game was just an emotional roller coaster for Clemson fans. Obviously, you touched on Bobby calling out the Clemson fan base itself. It's not going to be loud. It's not going to be any louder than the Carrier Dome last week. That place was rocking on that first possession, absolutely rocking. You could feel the seats vibrating. It was so loud in there. I think it was a great atmosphere in terms of fans. I'm sure the players noticed that. I know the players noticed that, actually. But you talk about a guy like Cole Stout, a guy that we've sat here across from each other and debated on who should start at the beginning of the year, and you were in the Deshaun Watson camp, and I was in the Cole Stout camp. And obviously you were right about that. Deshaun Watson is a special talent, and he is maybe one of the better quarterbacks to come through Clemson when it's all said and done. That remains to be seen. Obviously, he's out for the next, I think it's 5 weeks with a broken finger he just had surgery on. Now it's the Cole Stout era again. This is a guy who took no snaps in practice this past week for the game. He had a bum shoulder from the NC State win. He came in and got us to the finish line. Although he limped across it, he got us to the finish line, and we're there. We got the W. It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks. It's going to be interesting to see if he can buy back into the program, because the coaches these last couple of weeks have maintained he's been a leader. He's been in the locker room helping out the young guys, helping out Deshaun, studying film, doing this, that, and the other. You can't tell me a little bit of him didn't hurt a lot, a little bit didn't go away, if you will, when he got that starting job ripped away from him in Florida State, when he had the opportunity of a lifetime to make a name for himself on national television, ripped away from him. That hurts everybody. That takes a little piece of everybody with him. And I don't care what you say. It happened. So can he come back from that? Can he bounce back from that? I guess we're going to see. You start this week against Boston College. You go up to Boston College. Historically, Clemson has not played well there. I don't know why. They've never had a great team other than maybe the Matt Ryan era. But we're going to see what happens. He has a whole week to actually take first-team snaps and maybe prepare, and hopefully good things happen. If not, we're going to be crying and moaning for Deshaun Watson come next week this time.
I mean, absolutely. And one area that we were really dominant and was great to see us dominate was defensive special teams. Adam Humphries has apparently moved past his fumbling days and is now into the touchdown days, which is a much better phase for Clemson football fans. The defense was fantastic all day, coming from the start of the game to the finish. And we didn't get a lot from the offense, but we did get a little bit from Eamon Lakehip, hitting 3 field goals, one that just kind of bounced in, but you take them any way we can get them. And hopefully that'll be something that we can continue to move forward. These special teams playing well.
It's a shame that we don't talk about the defense and special teams right off the bat, because they were the stars of that game this past weekend, and that can't be understated. But, obviously the quarterback situation, quarterbacks are the most important position on the field. We're going to talk about them for the whole show if we have to. But, yeah, you're right. Defense wins championships, and defense won that game last Saturday for us. Your guys like Vic Beasley stepped up. Ben Boulware played out of his mind this past week. I think, what do you have, 12 tackles? It was ridiculous. He was all over the field. Number 10 is going to be a force to be reckoned with maybe for years to come. If he can hold on to that job and keep Tony Stewart out of the starting rotation, I think we're going to be okay with that. Ben Boulware is a guy that he has a brother here that plays baseball, the catcher, Garrett Boulware. He always has that, the chip on his shoulder. I got to be like big brother. I got to be better. And maybe we're starting to see that. Maybe this is a coming of age for Ben Boulware. Maybe this is a little bit of a snarl to the defense. There was one play in particular that I recall watching. He gets out to the flat covering a screen, grabs the guy and suplexes him. And that was awesome. It was awesome to watch. The stadium loved it. The place exploded when it happened. And a little bit of grit, a little bit of snarl on defense is never a bad thing. I'm all about it. Your Grady Jarrett's of the world have it. Your Vic Beasley maybe has it. I think he's a little soft, but I think he still has it. And Ben Boulware has it.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when you get 0 points from the offense, you get barely into the red zone, but you get 3 field goals. You get a defensive touchdown.
Sure.
You get a punt return touchdown. When you can win, when your offense literally doesn't score a touchdown, that's bodes really well for your football team going forwards, because when you can have a whole game plan for Cole Stout, when you can have a fully healthy Cole Stout, recovering from his injuries as well, and should be able to put some stuff together for him. He was good against some lesser defenses in relief of Taj Boyd, and if he can kind of refine that magic, the 19 for 20 games might not be what you need to win, but if he can just be a game manager, this defense and these special teams playing like this are good enough to win.
And let's just real quick touch on Boston College this upcoming week. This is a Boston College team who they're 4-2. They're not a bad team. Normally when we play Boston College, I feel like they're always a losing ball club, and it's never much of a game. This is a team that had USC come to them and they beat them. This is a team that beat NC State last week. It's a team that maybe we have to take a second to recognize as a legitimate threat, especially with a guy like Cole Stout at quarterback, especially with our number one offense not being trotted out every possession. What do you see happening this weekend, and any predictions for us?
Yeah, well, I think, the number one priority for Clemson this week is going to be stopping the run. This is a Boston College team that ran all over the University of Southern California, or the real USC, and beating that team, a team that's ranked in the top 25 at the moment. And, we stop the run, we win the game. It's as simple as that.
Defense wins championships. I think Clemson comes out on top. I think it's going to be closer than the experts predict. But I still think Clemson wins the game. Clemson's a better football team. Clemson has elite depth, if you will, and it should be interesting. Gabby, you want to give us a quick prediction before we sign off?
Yeah, I definitely have to go with Clemson. I think Clemson's defense did really great in the game last week. Defense wins games. Hey, I think that they can pull it off this week. I think with Watson being out, that we might struggle a little bit. Cole Stout, he really impressed me with some of the things he did against the defense last week. Against Louisville. I think Cole Stout's going to do good this week. A lot of people are like downing him and really doubting his playing. I think we're going to see a lot out of Cole Stout in the next few weeks.
Yep, looking forward to Cole Stout fighting crime, doing good rather than doing well in the game. But
all right, Gab, that's it. That's all we got.
All right, I want to give a shout out to the student section against the Louisville game. Great job, guys. The stadium was absolutely the loudest I've ever heard it. Being on the sidelines, I could actually feel it like vibrating. It was great. Thanks, guys, for being there for the team. I know that really helped with the win. But that's all we have for your week of sports. Tune in next Wednesday to get in on the action. Thanks, guys.
Have a good weekend.